Ugly motherfucker.
During this entire movie, I just really wanted Danny Glover to say, I'm getting too old for this shit. So today we're going to talk about Predator 2, and this is a movie that I have seen before, but I gotta be honest, it has been so long since I've seen Predator 2 that I don't even remember the last time I watched it. It was probably longer than 10 years ago, maybe like 15 years ago. I first saw this movie when I was a kid because my dad would let me watch certain R-rated movies with him. That's how I fell in love with the Alien franchise. That's when I saw the first Predator, and it's when I saw Predator 2. And I remember specifically Predator 2, like, disturbed me more as a kid than the first Predator did. And I think that might be because the first one had Arnold Schwarzenegger, who I was more familiar with. And in the second movie, I didn't know any of the actors or any of the characters. And there's a lot of violence just straight off the bat in this movie. The movie begins in an urban setting with cops in a standoff with a bunch of cartel drug people. And there's just bodies being blown up and, gunshots galore. People are being strung up upside down, skinned by the Predator once again. And I remember as a kid, I was like super uncomfortable watching this movie as opposed to the first one. So I don't know what that tells you. The violence in this one affected me more when I was a kid. But besides that, I know I'd seen it before when I was a little bit older, but I didn't really remember too much about the specifics of this movie other than the finale on the Predator ship, which, is very, very engraved in my mind. But the rest of the film was very much a blur. I remember Predator in the city, but that's about it. So watching this again now, I gotta say that I have a much bigger appreciation for this movie than I did before. I actually like this movie a lot. I would say, like, it has a couple of flaws, it has a couple of drawbacks to me, but overall, I think this movie might be one of the most underrated in the entire franchise, and I think it gets dismissed very easily because it's just not as good as the first one, right? Like, the first Predator is, in my opinion, one of the greatest films of all time. But if you're doing a Predator franchise and you want to show, different characters and different settings, and you want to have a different vibe than you had in the first movie, I think Predator 2 hits pretty much all the marks that you want to see while giving you a little bit more. It does expand the lore a little bit more. You get to see the Predator ship. You get to see a little bit more. And I think Danny Glover's character is great in this film. It's just, yeah, it's not as good as Dutch and Predator 1, but it's still really good. So this movie came out in 1990, a couple of years after the first movie, and yeah, it is disregarded a little bit because Arnold Schwarzenegger did not come back to do this film, but they tell a different story involving the Predator, and I don't mind that so much. I mean, would I love to see a movie where Dutch comes back? Absolutely. But the fact that they went with this direction and told a different kind of story, I don't mind that so much. And I think it kind of works here. I really do enjoy the premise of putting the Predator in the middle of a city. So this movie takes place in Los Angeles, and it follows a detective character played by Danny Glover. And that's a really great idea because the entire first film takes place in the middle of the jungle. And so for another premise, for a different idea involving the Predator, setting it in a modern urban setting, in the middle of Los Angeles, in the middle of a city, that's a really cool concept. And how does the Predator work in a city, And in a way, it's the same way it does in the jungle because it has tons of places to hide, tons of places to camouflage, and there are worthy prey all over the place because, you have like the drug dealers, you have the police officers, you have all of these armed and trained people. I mean, there's a plethora of targets to go after here, and it gives it a different vibe. You have like the alleyway scenes with like the steam and the fog rolling in. You have the Predator kind of walking through the puddles in its camouflage, and you just see the steps appearing, really cool stuff to happen there. And there's like an entire other plot going on here with the cops trying to take down these drug dealers. So there's like an entire other movie that's happening. And then all of a sudden the Predator kind of drops into it, which is a really neat idea. Kind of what they did with the first movie too, where it has like an entire other plot going on and the Predator just sort of shows up. And since you have Danny Glover, who is, of course, famous for the Lethal Weapon movies, and he's playing a cop here, it does kind of feel like familiar territory that is interrupted by the chaos of the Predator, kind of the same way that the first movie felt like a standard Arnold Schwarzenegger movie that's interrupted by the Predator. The same sort of thing happens here. It's picking off characters one by one. The opening sequence is great, where you have, like I said, this gun battle going back and forth, and, the Predator shows up, starts killing people, but nobody knows that the Predator is involving itself in this shootout, in this battle, because it's camouflaged. And there's a great scene where you see one of the characters on the rooftop, and Danny Glover's, holding him at gunpoint, telling him to put the gun down and everything. And this character knows that his people are being torn apart by something other than human. Danny Glover doesn't know at this time, and he looks up and he sees sort of the blurred image of the camouflage, and he pulls out his gun to try to do something, and Danny Glover blows him away, not even knowing everything that's happening behind the scenes or underneath the surface of what was just going on. There's other great characters in this movie too, like Bill Paxton, who's one of my favorite actors, plays this cop that's kind of like always telling really corny jokes and everything. And then you got Gary Busey in here, just acting like Gary Busey. I don't know how to describe it. Beautiful chaos within his performance, as always. I would say the only real drawback to this movie for me is sort of like the middle portion. I feel like it kind of drags a little bit. Like the opening is really, really great, and the final 30 minutes are phenomenal. But everything else in the middle, besides a couple of Predator attacks or a couple bits of the investigation where, Danny Glover is talking to that mysterious guy in the alleyway, and a couple little things like that. But generally, when he's just trying to solve the mystery and he's going around and, someone he knows gets killed and stuff like that, it's kind of standard stuff that's setting you up for what's going to be really awesome at the end of the film. But sometimes it feels like it's just kind of going through the motions in order to get us to that point. Whereas in the original, I think the entire thing is thrilling from start to finish. I do think Predator 2 has some lulls in the middle that doesn't make it quite top of the top the entire way through. But there's a lot of great sequences here that take advantage of what the Predator can do and show us a little bit more as well. There's a scene that takes place in a subway car where the lights are flickering, like almost to the point. There's actually a couple of scenes here that remind me of scenes from the Alien franchise. So, you got like the lights flashing in the subway car here that reminds me of the ending of the first Alien. But when you see the Predator going through, it's a terrifying sequence because nobody can see what's going on. The lights are flashing, but the Predator still has the infrared vision, so it sees everybody perfectly and can take them out in a manner of different ways, and where the people are just like screaming because there's just nothing they can do at that point. They have their guns out, they're firing, but it doesn't matter. The other scene that reminds me of Aliens is there's a moment where Gary Busey reveals to Danny Glover's character that, it had the intel from the first Predator movie. So that's how they tie in the original film, is that Gary Busey's character got the information as to what happened. He got the story. And so they've been investigating this and searching for these creatures. And they figured out a couple of things it can do. It knows it has the infrared vision. It knows a couple of its methods of attack and everything. So they lead the Predator to this slaughterhouse where it's really, really cold and the infrared vision isn't going to work as well, and also put the soldiers in suits so that the Predator can't pick them up with its vision, which I thought was a really creative idea. And what reminds me of Aliens is that Danny Glover is watching this through a screen, and as the Predator starts to attack and starts to find different ways to hunt them down, he's trying to tell them to get out of there, to do different things. It reminds me of Ripley yelling at the screen, or yelling at the, like the radio in Aliens when they first get attacked by all the alien xenomorphs in that movie. So there's a couple of I don't know if they're meant to be like homages or maybe it's just a coincidence, but there's particular sequences in this movie that remind me of scenes from the Alien film. But everything after that moment just goes straight 10 out of 10 for me. I think the finale of this movie is fantastic. Danny Glover's character just gets armed up, body armor, goes in with a gun, and goes to attack this Predator. Like, he's done with his bullshit. He's going to go in there, and they have this great fight, this great chase sequence that happens, and he really does a number on the Predator. He manages to shoot it multiple times. There's a scene, listen, there's a scene where he basically chases the Predator onto the rooftop, and they're hanging over the edge of the roof, and this is after the Predator is unmasked. And Danny Glover looks at the Predator, and he calls him pussy face. And not only did his delivery of the word pussy face make me laugh so goddamn hard, But I also cannot look at the Predator face the same way anymore, and for the rest of my life, I'm going to be thinking of that. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. He has a moment where he cuts off the Predator's arm, which is awesome. The Predator falls into this apartment building. Danny Glover keeps chasing him the entire way, and he chases him all the way down into the subway where the Predator spaceship is. And this is the big moment that most people talk about from this movie, because he goes right onto the spaceship, and you see a lot of really cool things. Like, first of all, you get to see a lot of the like architecture, and you get to see how the Yautja ships look from the inside and everything. But there's a trophy case in the ship that shows you the skulls of all of these different species that the Predators have killed. And there's one that looks like a giant dinosaur. There's the human skull that he takes earlier in the movie. But the big reveal is that there is a xenomorph skull in the ship, which teased the idea of Alien versus Predator, which we would actually not get for another 13 years after this movie came out, which is longer than the wait of Freddy versus Jason with the tease at the end of Jason Goes to Hell. I think that was 10 years. This was 13 years before Alien versus Predator came out. But what a cool reveal. What a good little Easter egg. I mean, back in these days, we didn't really get, teases of these shared universes as much in movies as we do now. Now it's kind of standard, but back then, that was huge. That was a massive reveal to see in this movie. And you also have the final fight between Harrigan and the Predator, where they just go mano a mano, hand to hand, and Harrigan actually manages to kill the Predator. It falls down dead, and then all of the other Predators show up, which is this terrifying moment, because we saw how difficult it was to kill one Predator, and now all of a sudden like 10 of them walk into the same room. But you can tell that there's this level of respect, kind of similar to advancing the idea from the end of the first movie, where it's like, okay, like you beat them fair and square. You had similar advantages and disadvantages. Either one could have won. You managed to kill it. Well, congratulations. So they take away the dead Predator and they throw him a gun from the 1700s, kind of like a reward for his victory. And that gun shows back up in the animated movie Killer of Killers that came out earlier, which was really cool to see. And they let him go. He has to get off the ship, and the ship leaves, and so he's left there with his victory. And I might even dare say that it's a little bit more of a victory than Dutch had in the first movie, because Dutch had like the log fall on the Predator, but the Predator decided to blow himself up, right? Like the Predator killed himself basically. In this movie, it's fair, hand-to-hand combat. Harrigan kills the Predator himself. So say what you will about that. So yeah, overall, this was a great rewatch. I haven't seen this movie in so many years, and I think Predator 2 is really good. After rewatching it, I'm going to be probably ranking all of these movies after Badlands comes out and I get through watching all of them. But Predator 2 is probably going to be higher on my list than I originally thought. I think it's really good. I just think it kind of has a lull in the middle of the movie where it kind of drags a bit, and it just has the detriment of like just not living up to the first one. It's just not quite as good as the first one, but it's still really, really good. Let me know what you guys think about Predator 2 down below. Do you think it's underrated, or did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you wish Arnold came back for this one? What do you think about Danny Glover in the lead role? Let me know all your thoughts and feelings on the movie down below. Thanks for watching, guys. Give the video a thumbs up, comment, help it out in the algorithm. And in the next video, I'm going to be skipping the Alien vs. Predator movies because I've already reviewed them in my Alien retrospective. So we're going to go straight to the movie Predators with Adrian Brody is going to be the next one. So look out for that. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.